All right, welcome everybody. It's great to see you here tonight. I am absolutely thrilled, as always, to see some friendly faces and some new ones. My name's Kate McCandless. I'm your host tonight, and it's so good to have you once again as we go on a deep dive with our wonderful presenter, Yuliya Schamrel, who's going to be presenting on type 1. Before I do that, I just really want to acknowledge our First Peoples as we gather online from many places, far and wide. And so, even though we're across Australia and Aotearoa, I want to honour the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples and the first peoples of Australia. And I also want to acknowledge the Māori Tanga Whenua of Aotearoa, New Zealand. We pay our respects to our elders, past and present, and honour the enduring wisdom, cultures, and relationships to the land that continue to shape these places. And without them, we wouldn't be here sharing this and sharing it across the globe. A brief introduction to Yuliya, who's a certified Enneagram coach and practitioner who works with people and companies across all of these nations, including the US and globally, with a background in organizational development and team dynamics. Her work with individuals and teams is built on trust, empathy, and joy. Building resilient teams to navigate change and deepen self awareness through the Enneagram, Yuliya brings a grounded, practical approach and a strong commitment to psychological safety, diversity, and acceptance. And what a combination when we're talking about typology and wanting to make sure that Yuliya will bring an open place for everyone to share and to experience what it is to be type 1, what it feels like to be type 1, what it feels like or is to interact with type 1s. So it's a safe place to share. And so we really want to encourage you all to put comments, thoughts, feelings in the chat. We're interested in your thoughts and ideas around this, and Yuliya will invite you to share as we head through the presentation. So, Yuliya, over to you.
Yes, thank you. Let's do something slightly different since most of you have been here with us. Let's also acknowledge Aotearoa New Zealand with a karakia. So for those of you who are not familiar with karakia, this is how we open important proceedings. And this karakia for opening, there's a closing karakia, there's a kai karakia, which is how we bless our food. And so I just feel inspired today. And what's really interesting, the words of uh, that opening karakia relate quite deeply to the Enneagram and the creation of it all. So the meaning goes with there was darkness, there is now light, the sun is rising, the birds are singing, I'm here, I'm in a good spirit, I'm alive. Right, so this is what we're going to do. And in the very end, when they'll say, Tihi Moriora, this is what you're going to say. And Yvonne, maybe you can teach, you can lead the group. Also, there are quite a few people here from Aotearoa, New Zealand, and that kind of the view of Aboriginal people in Australia and New Zealand is very close to the Enneagram because it's a collective spirit of wholeness, right? And so we have very individualized societies, but ultimately through working with the Enneagram we find connection with ourselves. And once we have found this authentic connection with ourselves, only then we can authentically connect with other people. And it's true for everybody, but it's specifically true probably for our type 1. So let's do the karakia. Hipo, hipo, hiao, hiao, takiri mate atu, korihi na mano, kaao, kaao, kaao tia, tihi, moriora. All right, so thank you for that. Let's go. And one other reason why I thought I'll start with karakia, you kind of can't say it and not be in your body, right? So like to say it, to really feel that I'm alive, that's us being in our body. And type 1 are in the body center, or as it is sometimes referred to, action center or a gut center. And those of you who've been here before would hear me talk about how type 8, 9, and 1 find themselves in the action center. 2, 3, and 4 is the feeling center, and 5, 6, and 7 types are in the thinking center. And what it means is that from the Enneagram structure, every center has something they seek, and every center has something they feel when they perceive that what they seek is not available to them, right? So with the feeling center types 2, 3, and 4, we talked about how they seek love and appreciation. And the resulting experience of perceiving not getting it is shame. For the thinking centers type 5, 6, and 7, we have this real drive to find enlightenment and security and safety. And the resulting feeling when we perceive we don't get that is anxiety. Sometimes can show up as cynicism or fear, but ultimately it's like I am not safe kind of experience. Now, for the action center types 8, 9, and 1, what they seek is boundaries and respect. And boundaries are both psychological and physical. And what they get to experience when they perceive that's not available to them is anger. Right. So where it becomes really interesting is where how anger shows up very differently, right? For type 8, anger is super expressed. I express my anger, I move on. Why are you so sulky? We had this open and honest conversation. We're good now, right? And the person is like, yes, yes, we are. Or for a type 9, that anger is, I'm not angry. I never get angry. I genuinely don't get angry. I'm just going to go with the flow and I'm going to be good about it. But of course, that anger is still there. But for type 1, that's a really, really interesting one. So that anger is a repressed anger. So everyone around our type 1s can see that they're angry. Maybe even they have some spots on their neck going a little bit red. But if asked if they're angry, they're very likely to say, no, 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 of course not. I'm just a bit irritated, or I'm just a little frustrated, because anger is not it's not an emotion that responsible adults express easily. And therefore, I'm not going to do that. And so that takes us to that personality that can be described as somebody who is very conscientious. So I need to be a good person, right? And I'm genuinely conscientious. I'm going to do the right thing, even if nobody is watching, right? So that's important. We all usually do the right thing if we know that someone is watching. We slow down if we know there's a camera somewhere. Well, our ones usually would do that even if the camera isn't there. There's a rule, and I will do the right thing. They are controlled, and self-control is one of those things that can be a fantastic ability and a gift in situations where it's important to keep one's exterior calm and relaxed. But when we overdo that, when we overdo self-control, and I kind of invite you to do that, kind of if you try to really kind of control yourself to the point where you kind of squeeze yourself and your shoulders go a little bit down, and now imagine forgetting to release that. And so very often our ones have pain in their lower neck and the shoulders area because of that repression is in their body. So we often just kind of like tense and forget to relax. And so the motivation is to be a good person, to do the right thing, to not make mistakes. And first and foremost, I need to be perfect, right? So we use the word critical there, and in a way, it's self-critical first, critical second. So no one would ever be as critical to anyone as our ones are critical to themselves. Right. So when we say critical, most of all, it's that self self criticism, and then now and then we just get a little spill of that going our way, and we're like, "Oh, you're being so critical." So it's really important that we are really kind, right? And sometimes when we say, "Oh, you're being so judgmental," well, that's also a judgment, right? So really important that we check ourselves and our language and how we communicate with the people that we love. And so we talked about that value of being conscientious. And as Kate said earlier, I work with teams a lot. And I actually worry when the executive team doesn't have one energy, right? So it doesn't mean that there has to be a representative of a type 1, although ideally there should be. But if not, then they have to be that other types need to bring enough one energy so that we do the right thing, even if it's not fun, even if it's not profitable, even if it's not going to be met with celebration by shareholders. Because first and foremost, for a type 1, it's important to do the right thing and live according to rules and moral values. And usually, this kind of a two-tier rule situation. I've got the rules that I expect other people to meet, and then I have the rules for myself. So very often, even in silly places, like in a workplace, if there is a task and a scope is 100%, it is very difficult for a type 1 to do it at 100%. They'll want to do it at 110 just because they can. There's always room for improvement. And very often, what other people perceive as critical is actually myself thinking, well, because I want to improve, I want people to give me feedback. So obviously, everybody else wants the same thing. And so I am going to help them out by showing them exactly where people can improve. And so there's a genuine, almost shock and misunderstanding that my giving you feedback so you could improve, which of course is a good thing, is not met with joy and delight at all times. And that again is one of the really important rules of the Enneagram, where we treat other people the way that they want to be treated rather than the way we want to be treated. And I think a couple of talks touched on that golden rule, treat others how you want to be treated, is actually what gets us into trouble many, many times. Right. Okay, my magic door opens again because my Vizsla can't stay away from us. He's not type 1. He's not doing the right thing at all. All right. So what else do we have there? I really want to see your faces, so I can't actually see my slide, but it's worth it. So we talked about key motivation of doing the right thing and having this strong sense of right and wrong. And so uncertainty is very difficult for somebody who leads with type 1. Because if the situation is uncertain, if there's more than one right way, it's genuinely confusing. Because I want to do the right thing. And if there's more than one right way, then how do I know that I'm choosing the right way? And so the worst thing that anybody could tell our type 1 at work is, this is what you need to do. I don't care how you do it, when you deliver that. And people think, I'm such a great leader. I'm giving them full agency. But what they're actually doing, they're freaking out our one who needs to know what good looks like so that they can meet their standards. Blind spot, again, it's such an interesting function of human experience. So we have this self-view, right? And our self-view is very important to us. It's more than how we want to be seen. It's how I am. And if I'm not, then who am I, right? And so for type 1 is, I'm a good person. I'm a good person who does the right thing most of the time. And so if there's anything that comes in my conscious that would argue that point, I then am going to employ my defense mechanism so that I'm putting that what I don't want to see in my blind spot. And so defense mechanism for type 1 is reaction formation. And that's a really interesting one. And it's a big marker for type 1. So if somebody feels like, oh, it could be type 1, or it could be maybe a 2, that usually is where you know that, okay, I'm either that or I'm not. And reaction formation is when we do the opposite of what we actually want to do, because we think that what we actually want to do is not right or good, right? So for example, I really dislike, I don't want to use real names in the call because I don't dislike any of you. So say I dislike Bob. And every time I see him, I'm going to be extra nice to him because good people don't dislike anybody. And so I'm going to make myself to make a special effort to be nice to that person, right? Or maybe one now and then just lets them let their hair down and they have a big night. And then the next morning, instead of sleeping in, they go, you know what, I need to go for a run. I took this, getting my hair down a bit too far. So the reaction formation is making myself do something that I actually don't want to do, just to prove to myself that I have that self-control and I can be a good person and do the right thing no matter what. Of course, so many gifts for our ones. And it's actually, I was reflecting on that just before the session, how the very thing that we are so good at, we think that is completely outside of our reach, right? So, for example, one of the reasons why type ones are so full of self-checking and self-control and even self-criticism is because ultimately, deep down, they don't believe that they're a good person, right? Like if you're really trying to be a good person, somewhere you believe that you're not. But they are. They genuinely are the most conscientious people of the Enneagram. And then I was thinking that it's probably true for everybody, right? Our twos always feel like if I stop, I'm not going to be seen as helpful. But you are already the most helpful person, even if you're not doing anything, because you are helpful. Or three, if I slow down and stop achieving, then I'm going to be a failure. But even your stopping to achieve is still probably a higher mark than somebody else. And so I was really thinking about that, that what we actually already have, we are working for so hard that we kind of end up losing, right? So this is really interesting. Right. So we have a question from Pauline. I'm just going to stop sharing for a second, so I don't have this conflict of oh, am I sharing? Yes, I am sharing. Let's stop. Okay. So we have a type one with a strong nine wing. Yeah, that's good. Regular problems trying to keep the one quiet and stay more in accepting nice space. Hard not to judge if we have a moral compass. Okay, this is beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Pauline. It's a great question. Um, and it kind of takes us to the place where our wings are so useful for us, right? So they're allowing us to reach out to behaviors that are not going to be available to us from the point of our core type, right? And so, you could say that one needs to quiet down a little bit so you're not judgmental. Or maybe it's just trying so hard because you're ignoring it. So maybe next time it's giving you that kind of judgmental, or what you perceive a judgmental tone of voice, you can go with, what is the positive intention behind it, right? So we're not going to do something that is not good for us. So wherever we have a feeling or even an unhelpful kind of behavior, thought, or emotion coming up, it still is helpful. It usually has a good intention. And so, for example, what maybe Pauline you might perceive as a judgment from a nine space could be one trying to help you with boundaries. Maybe one is trying to say, well, why are these people expecting you to go with their agenda and not you telling them what you want to do? And so my kind of curiosity about it will be to pause and to consider, if this voice had positive intention, what would it be trying to tell me? And then I would ask myself, what else? At least two or three times. Because your first response is going to be like, oh, it's just trying to tell me to toughen up. It's like, yeah, but what else? What is it really telling me? And then you'll be like, well, maybe it's telling me that I need to stand up for what I believe in. All right, and what else? And so by the time you ask yourself four or five what else's, you would get somewhere that will be genuinely useful. So usually we only have this strong, we can call it interference, but it can come from our type too. Like wherever we have this thought or feeling that we just can't shake off, right? Like sometimes we walk about and we just feel a bit anxious, maybe thinking types would relate to that better. You're just feeling like, oh, something is off, like nothing is wrong, but I'm just like, I just can't know, like, what's going on. Just ask yourself, sit with it, go, okay, where am I feeling that? Where in my body do I feel that? All right, let's breathe into that. Okay, what's happening? When was the first time I started feeling that? Okay, it was this morning. What happened this morning? Oh, yes, I missed the meeting. And now I'm wondering if all my calendar is wrong. Like, whatever it is, right? So it really is important that if we have this persistent thought or persistent feeling, it's trying to tell us something. And usually it will have positive intention. And so I would say get really curious, and ask what it's about. Because we are so wise and so good to ourselves if we only let ourselves be that. So, yeah, I hope it helps, Pauline. I am going to But also do unmute yourself and ask if
Yeah, thank you for that, Yulia. And I think that's really good. That's pausing and questioning, because I think what I do, which I've only just realised, is I then go and judge the fact that I'm judging.
hmm
Oh God, I'm judging. I shouldn't be doing that, or I'm criticising, because somehow or other that's an anathema to me to be doing that, because none of us are perfect. We all stuff up at times. But yet, that moral compass, as I say, it seems hard to navigate, because you need a moral compass to navigate properly. But yet, once you've got one, this judgment or criticism automatically happens. And then I criticize that. Whereas I think your point in pausing and questioning beneath it is, I mean, I'll probably do that later on, when I'm in reflective mode. But at the time, I just really feel really uncomfortable. And that's what I don't like.
yeah.
So
Thank you
thank
so
you
much
for
for
your
sharing that.
suggestion. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really good. Thank you.
And another thing that I'll say is, sorry, is there another closed door that's in your way? Is that what you call judgment could be discernment. And discernment
Mm,
is really good.
mm,
Discernment, it what helps us understand what's working in our life. Should I listen to this? Is it true? Is it not? Is it actual person? Is it the fake? Is it AI? Is it? We actually need discernment so much. And so if we try to completely repress our judgment, then we can lose discernment. And if
mm,
we lose discernment, then we really are in trouble.
mm,
Right. And so it's again, judgment is not a bad word. It's when we make it that, then it kind of becomes that. So discernment is one of the gifts of one, right? And so when working with somebody in the space of one, or maybe you have a one wing, I can see we have a couple of twos on this call. Um, it's really important to kind of breathe in and consider, whew, well, if discernment is my superpower, what's stopping me from exercising that, right? So discernment is good. It really, really is good.
I will call it discernment in future. That feels good. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Pauline. Beautiful. And yes, Sarah, absolutely. We'll talk about four when we talk about lines. And again, one is such a beautiful, beautiful type. And I think it's actually easier to understand lines in the one space because they're just so different from the core motivation of the type. Right. So again, a reminder with the Enneagram, when we work with the Enneagram, we kind of have our descriptions of the type, and then we know that Enneagram is not a box. It shows us our box that we put ourselves in and how we can get out of it. And so our wings and our lines are those strategies of how we can make our box a little bit bigger and then get rid of it altogether eventually. And so first we always look at the wings because wings are those developmental strategies, right? We say wings are for development and lines are for transformation. But of course, both can offer significant development and transformation. Because if we think about our type one, if they can connect with their nine wing, what they get from that is that ability to relax, right? So if you ask a type one, how do you relax? They will just say no. I'm like, it's an open question. You can't just say no. They're like, it's a no. How can you relax when something always needs to be done? And even if something is done, and even when everything is done, it is rarely done to my standard. And if I'm sitting, why am I sitting? Why am I being so lazy? Okay, I need to get up, but I need to do something. I need to be more efficient. And so that ability to just be is so important. And reaching out to that nine, this is where one can get that for themselves. And this is also where they can kind of release their high standards, right? Because what's really interesting is that very often ones would say, but these are my standards. I'm not telling other people that they have to have the standards that are just as high. But we translate, like we transmit it. We walk around with high standards than everybody else. People know that our standards are higher than theirs. And they take resentment to that sometimes. And so sometimes just understanding that as a human being, I cannot always be at 110%. We all need oscillation. Maybe I do 120% here, but I should be fine with 80 in this task. I don't like it anyways. It's not that important. Let's just do it at 80%. Why not? And so that again, the gift of a 9, I can kind of go with, oh, is it really that important? So sometimes a little bit of procrastination actually works just really well. And then on the other side, we have 2. So a 2 wing is beautiful in a sense that it allows us to see the best in people. Right. So if I am genuinely wanting to help people improve, I am going to notice things that need improvement. But if I'm looking for the best in people, then it helps me to balance that out. Right. And so again, this is what 2s are so good at, is that kind of positive view of others, and also usually assigning positive intention to the actions of other people, more so than other types. Again, it gets them into trouble now and then because people don't always have positive intention. And again, this is where 2s can get one's discernment to understand whether that's the case or not. But again, if we are doing it from our core type 1, just getting those qualities, let us breathe out a little bit. We just go like, yeah, whew, I can breathe, I can relax the shoulders, and maybe I can skip physio this month because I'm not carrying all the tension around me, right? And that's why I always have so much empathy for the ones, because they carry a lot in their shoulders, like literally in their shoulders, and figuratively, they also carry a lot on their shoulders. And yes, it is so interesting that our 1 has wings to 9 and 2. So the wings are like, chill out. It's going to be all right. She'll be right. So that's kind of what the wings are doing. And as a bird needs 2 wings to fly, so are humans. So we need 2 wings to fly. So that kind of makes sense. But the lines from 1 are a bit tricky, right? And as Cam, you shared, like I understand how 7 can benefit from 1 and so forth, but like how does it work the other way around? So I'm going to first talk about what happens when kind of life takes me there. So if I'm not using my lines intentionally, maybe I don't know anything about the Enneagram. So what usually would happen is our 1s work hard and they go on holiday. And suddenly they're like, oh, plans, schmans, I don't care. We don't need stuff booked. I don't care what's in my suitcase. Let's just book first night and then we'll see what happens. And everybody's like, whoa, who is this person? What's going on? And they really are good with just winning it and seeing what happens and being open to possibilities of whatever the holiday can bring. But then at 5 p.m. on a Sunday, they're back to their 1 and off they go. So that's kind of what happens naturally sometimes to us. And the other way what happens is quite often it's actually hard work to do the right thing all the time, right? It's really, really hard. What's even harder is people don't always thank you for that, right? And so often ones feel like, whoa, so I've been doing the right thing all this time, and it actually doesn't make me happier. It doesn't bring me joy. It doesn't seem like people like me more for that. So what the hell am I doing it all for? And actually, do I even know what's right or wrong anymore? And if I don't know that, well, who am I? And suddenly I find myself in that 4 space. And so the feelings that before I would pop in that reaction formation mechanism to my blind spot, like anger and resentment, are suddenly available to me. So in that space, I can feel it and I don't like it. It's not nice because remember, a good person doesn't feel anger and resentment. And here I am feeling anger and feeling resentment. And it's in me, it's not in other people. That's me. Well, how can I call myself a right good person if I do that? So it's a really kind of uncomfortable spot. And this is where the Enneagram comes in and intention. Because when we're using our lines with intention, then we can go, okay, hang on. It's not really nice here. I get that. But since I'm already here, how about I am going to connect with what's actually important to me as a human being? Like if I release the should and must and a good person and everybody's looking out for me for the standard of what one should be doing. Like, what if I wasn't that? What do I actually want? And so this is a space where one can connect with their values, not the values that they've imposed on themselves. And very often those standards and the kind of inner critic is quite a crowd. Like it's not just one voice, it's quite a few of them, right? And sometimes if we really sit with it, we can recognize whose voices they are. Like we can recognize the turn of phrase and somebody somewhere said something and it just gets stuck with us and we remember it. And we tell ourselves this over and over again. So in a four space, ones give themselves permission to actually connect with themselves and what's important to them. And then, because we know the Enneagram and we work with the lines, instead of going back to a one, because like, oh, okay, I know what I want. Now what? Now, how about I consider the possibility and opportunity and wonderful options that are available to me if I connect with the seven space? And so if then one can do that, then they go like, you know what? I actually now know exactly what I want to do. I know what good looks like, and I can come back to my one and be this really productive one. I'm back to knowing exactly what good looks like, and I'm back to knowing exactly what I should be doing. And so it's kind of that movement and working with the lines. What matters is intention, right? So in the olden days of the Enneagram, there was this language of line of integration, line of disintegration, and belief that somehow one line is good and the other one is bad. But now we know that we can gain good stuff from every one of 8 other remaining Enneagram types. And so it doesn't make sense that we can get good things from all of them except for our line. So of course we can get good stuff there. And also if I'm already there, then it means that I'm literally there. So all I need to do is instead of being in the kind of reactive side of the type, I can go like, what's good about it? How can I take on that? Because I'm already here anyways. So I might as well get something that I can really, really work with. And so that line work is really good for once. And also thinking about what gives me joy. That's another thing that one can gain from going into line 7. What brings me joy? And once I find what brings me joy, I should ask myself this question every single morning and carve space for me to do something that brings me joy. Right. So that's kind of that's what the lines are about. What brings me joy? And I'm loving the song at the moment that's called Joy. So when we finish, I'm going to play it for you because it's like the best thing in the world. We all need joy. And ones and fours, I think, specifically can do that. So that's the lines. Cam, how does it sound? Does it answer your question? Should we talk a bit more about it?
Yes, look, it really did. There was a couple of friends that I've worked with over the years are ones, and we'd work together, we'd go out and they'd cut loose because they didn't have to do anything the next day or two. And I was always sort of confused about why they were grumpy at other times. And your explanation actually really makes sense when I think back to how they actually went into themselves and went, what's really important to me? Am I in regards to what we were doing? And sometimes they would come back completely different. I remember particularly one Swiss German gentleman I worked with. He shaved off all his hair, and he was the most conservative person, but he shaved off all his hair and he said, I just need to change everything. We need to change everything now. But he'd been in his floor space for a couple of days, really, at work. And I've always thought back to that and kind of gone, I don't get it. But that really makes sense. So thank you.
Yeah, you're most welcome. And when we have somebody who's caught up as one and they have the German Swiss culture overlay, that's a very one-ish culture, then you really have like one with one wing. And so when they go to 7, they really go to 7.
Absolutely.
Because that structure and discipline has been with me for so long. Like to shake it, I need a little bit more than if I
There's
was.
nothing like a large Swiss German in a white linen suit on a disco dance floor at 2 a.m. in the morning. Stand back.
Wow.
Frightening vision.
Oh, well, I want us all to just keep this mental image. If you're asking yourself, I wonder what one looks like in the seventh space, that's exactly what one looks like in the seventh space. Awesome. All right. Well, I'm glad that that's landing. And then Sarah, you also were wondering about type 4, so just let me know if we can cover that a bit more. But as always, I also want to talk about paths of transformation. So again, just a little tiny bit of Enneagram theory is the idea is that there's horizontal development that we've just discussed. So working within the Enneagram symbol, our wings and our lines. And there also is vertical development. And vertical development is kind of rising from the fixations of our type, rising from the vice that's holding me in its grip. And so the vice to virtue transition is emotional transformation, and fixation to holy idea transition is mental transformation. And of course, as human beings, we cannot think and feel independently of one another. So when we work with our vice, we also release our fixation. When we work with our fixation, we also release our vice. And so for type 1, vice is anger. And that's really interesting because you think, but they say they don't get angry. How can the vice be anger? And Oscar Ichazo, who was kind of brought Enneagram to Claudia Naranjo, who brought Enneagram of personality to the world, he called one's anger as standing against reality. Right. So how things are is just not good. It's just not good enough. So that's what we mean by that anger. It's that consistent dissatisfaction with how things are. Right. And actually, the positive intention behind it is the optimism that I can see how things can be. Right. So you could argue that one is the most optimistic type because they can see exactly how things would work if everybody just worked together to do the right thing. But the other side of it is that kind of consistent resentment and dissatisfaction with how things are. And then the antidote to that is a virtue of serenity, which is that radical, open-hearted acceptance of all that occurs. It is what it is. Like, even if I don't like it, like I'm not saying I need to enjoy it, but saying that it's not happening isn't a good strategy either, because it is happening, regardless of how I feel about it. And guess what? Even if I'm not there, it will still be happening. So I might as well just breathe and accept. And then we have fixation. So when vice is our emotional pattern, fixation is our mental pattern with how we sustain our vice. And they work beautifully together. You know, you get from resentment to anger, from anger to resentment, they kind of fuel each other. And we need to be mindful and non-judgmental when that happens, because by pausing it, we're kind of removing oxygen from that fire. But if we get angry about being angry, guess what? We get angrier. So it really doesn't help to feel that. And so the fixation of resentment is when I notice what's wrong, I notice when people don't behave like they said they would, I notice when it's just not right. Like I just need to fix it. Whereas perfection is recognizing things as they are. So that whole idea of perfection, again, it's not I'm going to sit down and do nothing. It's not that. It's not I'm just going to pretend that everything that's happening is the right thing. No. So the perfection is that I know that there are the laws of universe that are working without me. There was gravity yesterday, there'll be gravity tomorrow. There's a proton neuron yesterday, it will be here tomorrow. And so if things are as they are, what can I do in this context? Right, so we still can have action in the space. It's just that action would be coming from a better space. And in that space, we're going to have a lot more resource in how we can address what it is that worries us and what it is that bothers us. And again, joy is how I get there. Humor is how I get there, right? So when something is so bad it's funny, that's kind of perfection. That's the holy perfection. It's like it's comically bad, like that's acceptance. It is what it is. It's not great, and I'm okay with that. And it kind of seems like it's just not accessible sometimes. I'm actually um, teaching a level 1 course now, and today's a participant who is top 1 said, "But like, what does it actually mean? Like, what does it mean if I connect with the holy idea?" And I said, "Well, imagine you see something that needs to be fixing, and you go, 'Not my circus, not my monkeys. I'm just gonna read a book.'" And she was like, "I can't do it." I was like, "Yeah, when you can, you've reached your whole idea." So it really is just letting go of that belief that if something needs fixing, it's my job. And actually even letting go of the belief that when I think that something needs fixing, it's my opinion. It doesn't mean that it actually needs fixing. I think that it needs fixing, right? It's not the same as it needs fixing. Right. And so again, this is where judgment and discernment are different, because if I'm judging, I'm going to say, "Oh, seriously, these people." But if I'm discerning, I'm going like, "Okay, well, what could be the reason for somebody's behavior?" And I'm going like, "Well, actually, it makes sense. Okay, not my circus, not my monkeys. Off we go. Holy idea." So again, it's the kind of letting go, and it is so liberating, right? And this is why Enneagram is about freedom. And in a way, 7 for a 1 is about freedom, because it is liberating to not feel responsible for everything and for everyone, right? So when you're responsible for everybody, you're kind of over responsible. It's not pleasant for anyone. And so just letting go of that is so good. And if you think about it, it's so easy. Just don't do anything, right? Like, I'm not even asking you to do something. We're just asking ones to stop feeling like they always have to do something or to be good, because they already are. I often tell a one, look, even if you completely relax and drop your standards, they're still going to be higher than mine. So just carry on. And it's true, and it kind of works. All right. Any questions before we go to Matryoshka Dolls of Instincts? I'm going to stop sharing for a second. So no questions in the chat. Anything? So we've just looked at vice to virtue and fixation to holy idea. Anything resonates? Do we have actually anybody on the call who resonates with a 1? I can see 4s, I can see 5s, I can see 8s. Okay. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. That's a really big aspect for me that I constantly think about. And am I being a 1 or am I being a 6? Am I moving into my 4? Oh my God, just, be present. Don't hold too hard. But I did see someone else had a question at one stage just then. Where'd they go?
I'm trying to do the right thing there, Cam. Just chill. It's my job to call people out. You good. Sarah, did you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I really appreciate how you kind of explain the arrows. I haven't been able to attend every session this week, so it's quite new to me hearing the path of transformation and a new way of understanding the lines. Specifically, I'm at this talk because my mom is a 1, and we've been talking a lot. She's also been going to some of these. We've been talking a lot about she's a 1, I'm a 4, and kind of the relationship between them. And for me, I'm like, when I'm healthy, I'm a 1. And my mom was like, when I'm not healthy, I'm a 4. But now we're kind of re-understanding it. And actually, she has a lot to gain from that, being connected with herself and letting herself feel what she's feeling and know who she is. And for me, obviously, I get a lot from getting out of my feelings and into the world and structuring my feelings. So I just really appreciate that. So thank you. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Sarah. Yeah, it's almost like meeting in the middle, right? It's for four is okay, what's the next right step? If I stop my thinking feeling loop, what's just the first right little step I can take? And for a one, it's almost like what should just not do? What if I were to not take any steps and just sit with myself and let myself really connect with what's important to me? So there's definitely beautiful, so many things that you can learn from one another. And very often, actually, the parent-child relationships, and especially the tricky ones, are on the line, right? So very often it's 1 and 7, and it's like, oh, my mom is dead, or like, and to be fair, probably most teenagers think their parents are ones because they're trying to put some boundaries. 2 and 8. So there's a lot of many times those relationships that are so close to us that are so turmoilous sometimes. Because there are lines and we see those qualities in ourselves and we are like, I don't want to see that. I sound just like my mother. When you say that, right, you probably don't mean a good thing, but we should. It's not a bad thing. All right, so let's have a look at instincts and just before I lose my voice, because I think we're getting there. So we talked about kind of Enneagram being this. We talked. If you were here before, if you didn't, we didn't talk. Don't worry, it did not happen today. So let me start again. So if we remove the Enneagram wheel for a second out of our slide and our conscious, that is our motivation. But as human beings, as mammals, as most organisms, we would have these three biological drives, and all of us have all three. What's different is how they are stacked in ourselves, right? And so we all have all three groups. All of them are really important for, firstly, survival for us as species, but secondly, for us to live a fruitful life. But usually we would have over attention and concentration on one of those. And sometimes we kind of background one of them. There are some people who have almost equal access to all three instincts, but it doesn't happen that often. Usually we favor one of them. And Russ Hudson said, if you look at your life in the last year, you will see that you built a temple to your instinct. So it's kind of, if you can reflect on the last year of your life, you are likely to see which of the instincts is prevalent for you. So the instinctual group of self-preservation is responsible for keeping us alive, keeping us safe. And so in those tribal days, it was having cave, running water, fire, food. And in the modern days, it extends to having insurance and health insurance, and my shelter is still important to me. So usually self-preservation, people really like their home and they want to be in their home. It's like their safe place. And they show love through providing often, right? So if I am working really hard and I don't have time for you, but I give you security, that's love, right? Because that's what's important to me and I'm giving this to you. Whereas for the social instinctual group, it's more about navigating my tribe. So I walk into the room, I understand the hierarchy of this room, whether I want it or not. And because of that, it's so automatic and it's so difficult to switch it off that sometimes it can show as social anxiety. So it doesn't mean that if my social instinct is high, I need to be with people. It just means that when I am with people, then I pay attention to where I am and how I stack. And then the sexual instinct or one-on-one instinct is responsible for, it's kind of the vibrancy in our life, vibrancy, vitality, connection. And it's not necessarily romantic connection. It's just like I want my life to be really full. Like I want it to be intense. And very often people who have this as their top instinct, they kind of show up their type more in a more vivid way. So the passion of their type really shows up quite often in that. And so now we're going to bring back the Enneagram. And what it means is that when we merge our Enneagram type motivation with the instinctual group that's leading for us, we're going to get 3 subtypes per type. So for type 1, these are the subtypes, and the labels come from the work of Claudia Naranjo, and then later Beatrice Chestnut developed on that. Yeah, subtypes are so important in our understanding of the Enneagram, and often subtypes help us understand why people mistype themselves, because very often our behavior kind of doesn't look like expected. So, for example, for type 1, self-preservation subtype is called worry, and they're often mistyped as type 6. So if you think about it, if motivation is to be good and to not make mistakes, self-preservation tells me I need to be good, I need to not make mistakes. And so very often self-preservation ones replay conversations in their head to make sure that they didn't do something wrong. Or they play forward conversations in their head because they don't want to do something that is wrong. So it's a very, like if all ones are conscientious, this is like an uber conscientious type. And they usually say, I'm sorry, about 27 times per hour, right? So they're going to be walking on the street, somebody will walk into them and they'll say, I'm sorry. So that's how you know. If you think you're self-preservation 1 and you don't say I'm sorry, we'll probably have a mistype on our hands. And so quite often they can be mistyped as a 6, because what people see is that worry, what people see is them replaying conversations, doubting themselves, but they're not doubting it for kind of concern for safety. They're doubting it because they want to be a good person and do the right thing. Then we have a social one. So the name is for the subtype is non-adaptable. And that's probably the most kind of obvious one, if we can say obvious about anybody. And that's because I work hard to have high standards, and I usually achieve those standards. And now I just want to make sure that everyone around me has standards that are just as high. And so this is going to be a one that kind of is more openly providing feedback to people, where they ask for it or not. And it's really is important for them that the entire group of people, be their family or their immediate team, are also having this high standards, high ethics, great quality work that's being delivered. So they kind of have this navigating social instinct and socially for their group to be good. And then finally, the one-on-one, the sexual subtype is zeal, and it's a counter type. And the counter type is the word that's used to describe a type that doesn't look like them, right? So a subtype that doesn't look like their type, it's called a counter type. And what it means fundamentally is that they share the same motivation, but their behavior looks so different that very often people go, oh, there's no way you're a 1. And so if we think about passion over 1 being anger, that one-on-one instinct is going to amplify that. And so you're getting yourself a person who's really outspoken about things that they think are not right. So if self-preservation 1 are trying to better themselves, and the social 1 is trying to better their immediate group, the one-on-one 1 is trying to better us as humanity. So in some Enneagram nomenclature, the type is called reformer. And that's a reformer because there were a lot of people who we think were type 1, who genuinely reformed churches and societies. And so it's a great energy, and it also can be energy that can get into people's way a lot. And so sometimes they can be mistyped as an 8, because their anger is very much expressed and it's not hidden. But the motivation, again, it's not about being in control. It's about making sure that collectively we're doing the right thing. All right, questions, comments. Let's see. And I'll look for that song so far. Any questions? I don't know if you can hear it. No? I will share it in a chat so you can play it. It's a beautiful song, and if you can all play it tomorrow, that'll be awesome. All right. But questions or comments do you have? If you'd like, we can turn recording off at this point. We'll just probably talk about what's in store tomorrow, if that works.
I'm happy to jump in. I'm also happy to track down that song if you like and try and share it. You said it was Joy, Yuliya, by who?
Yep, by Ray. I'm going to put it in the chat. Thank you. That would be awesome.
Joy by Ray. Let's see if we can track it down and share it with everybody. Whilst I'm tracking that down, I will give you all and feel free, by the way, if anyone thinks of anything or has any questions as I'm finishing up, just to put down your thoughts, feelings, questions in the notes, and we'll come back to that. Want to thank Yuliya so much for your as always, detailed, thorough, to the point, but not too much information presentation, spot on. As always, it's great to have you. And you've seen Yuliya all week. We're thrilled to have Yuliya on the board, who's been a major contributor, along with Andre and Cam, Val and Yvonne. There's a few of us in here tonight. So send kudos to everybody who's given up their time, and Yuliya for tonight. Thank you so much, Yuliya. I can see there's a raised hand, Pauline. We'll come back to you in a second. I also want to make mention, of course, that we've got memberships on this QR code if you would like to join. And I know there's a lot of people here who are members already. And so I encourage you, please share the membership opportunity with friends and family. We're on social media, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Substack, if that's your thing. It's this community and all of us coming together. Contributing financially makes a big difference, of course, keeps us going. We're a volunteer organization, and so being here together is happening because of passionate people like you all. The more members that join, the more opportunity we've got to bring great speakers and to increase the community and grow the community and bring more information, education to you. So please share and like and comment and follow all of those things. We've got still a whole lot more to come. Today is a big day. So after this presentation, you get to go eat some dinner or not. You could fast if you want to. Before we come back to hear from Rachel King, who spoke this morning, and she's going to be sharing a little bit about leadership in the workplace, and we're looking forward to her insights there. After that, you'll get another wee break for another meal opportunity, and we're going to hear from Ingrid Hewitz, who's going to share with us about tri-type and the embodied Enneagram. She is, along with Rachel, both incredible speakers. Can't more highly recommend that you attend those. Tomorrow morning, we have Samantha McKay, who's going to be talking to us about inner resilience. And she's been around the trap. She's got some really interesting insights into Enneagram types and has an amazing project book coming out as well. So highly recommend you track her down, follow her, and come along to her presentation. And tomorrow night, we've got Marg Loftus, who's going to be sharing and exploring type 7. So there's still lots. Of course, Saturday, we've got Russ, and we've also got Kathy Jankowski talking about Qigong in the Enneagram. So cool. So much going on. So we're thrilled to have you all, and keep coming. No doubt you will. You've all been so committed. So thanks again. Big thanks to all of you. Big love to all of you. We're just chuffed to be sharing this launch with you this week. And we'll see